Big question that we are asking tonight is, do governments tend to go soft on big business houses? Joining me now, the final word is Rajya Sabha MP Rajeev Chandrashekar. Thanks, Rajeev, for being with us this evening. Now, you have accused Ratan Tata of getting preferential treatment from the government earlier as well. Now, there seems to be an allegation over BSNL now. What's your view on this matter?
I don't know. I don't want to comment on whether VSNL, there is some merit in it or not. I think there is an investigation that Mr. Sibal has ordered. Let those facts be thrown to light. Let it come to light, and then we can all judge what is wrong and what is right. But I think the larger picture for corporates to really to start pushing for with government is for more transparency in their dealings with government. This issue of discretion and therefore, company A doing well and company B not doing well because of proximity to politics and proximity to ministers, we must change that model. Companies must succeed based on innovation, merit, and on their own strengths, and not because they have, lobbyists or access to ministers.
That's a good point, Rajeev. In fact, I want to dwell on this a little bit more. The nexus between corporate world and politicians has come up in a big way in the last few months. But do you see any change going forward? Or do you expect this kind of interaction, which is pretty non-transparent in some ways, to continue?
This is the unfortunate part, Pranjal, that I would have thought that the government would have learned by now that most of these problems are created by this nexus and this unfettered administrative discretion that politicians have. So it is unfortunate that, for example, Mr. Sibal, who is now talking about a new telecom policy, continues to engage only with corporates instead of engaging with consumers and the other stakeholders that make the telecom sector what it is. This reliance and this relationship between corporates and politicians, and today we've seen something else about the VSNL again come out into the open. This is a nexus that unfortunately some companies are exploiting. There are many companies that are doing fine and they are looking at the government only from a point of view of enabling their businesses. But unfortunately there are a number of large corporates who are misusing this relationship and benefiting extraordinarily, and that is something that is not good for business, not good for democracy, and not good generally for anybody.
You mentioned Kapil Sibal, Telecom Minister, about the fact that he's talking only to corporations and not to consumers, but you've also written to him about inaction on companies who are violating the rollout plan. Have you heard from the minister?
Absolutely, Pranjal. I think this curse of unfettered discretion that ministers have and bureaucrats have, it is a curse, because when there is a penalty that is to be levied on anybody under the law, for a politician or a government official to use his discretion to waive these penalties or to reduce it is automatically suspicious, because it is in a way, in one sweep of the pen, giving largesse to private interests and depriving the exchequer of that penalty. So I am extremely critical of this very non-transparent way of dealing with levies and show cause notices in the telecom sector. And I have urged Mr. Sibal to do all this in the open. I mean, there is nothing wrong in doing this in the open. Establish some rationale, some criteria for what you do and how you do it, so that it is not very personal. It is not based on discretion and likes and dislikes.
Rajeev, there's a bigger issue now when you talk of corruption and lack of transparency, and that sort of manifested itself in this cash for votes allegation as well. And of course, there again the issue of, if you have to influence people in the parliament, why don't you do it in a transparent way? As an MP, what do you think is the solution? Because many parties have been accused of this, and today we find that the Prime Minister himself is facing a privilege motion on it.
No, look, I think for anybody who values Indian democracy, whether you're in parliament or you're outside parliament, the fact that parliament can be bought for cash or votes can be bought for cash is one of the biggest embarrassments that you could have as an Indian citizen. Now, whether this is true or false, the committee that was formed earlier has prima facie accepted there were bribes given. And who were the bribe givers? Who were the bribe takers? What were the consequences of the bribe? Were these, did they really turn the vote on the confidence vote? These are all issues that should be criminally investigated. And I think this is just fair. This is nothing political about it. It is you, me, anybody who today has a stake in Indian democracy should say, look, we want the truth on this to emerge, and let this be through a fair investigation.
Fair point, Rajeev. Thanks for being with us this evening. Very serious issues raised in the parliament on cash for votes scam.